Investing in investment funds. One course open to this defensive investor is to put his money into investment company shares. Those that are redeemable on demand by a holder at net asset value are commonly known as mutual funds. Most of these are actively selling additional shares through a corporation salesman. Those with non-redeemable shares are called closed-end companies or funds. The number of their shares remain relatively constant. All of these funds of any importance are registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission and are subject to its regulations and controls. The industry is a very large one. So there are different ways of classifying funds. One by one, a broad division of their portfolio are called balanced funds if they have a significantly, generally about 1/3 component of bonds, and stock funds if their holdings are nearly all common stocks. There are some other varieties like bond funds, hedge funds, letter stock funds, etc. Another is by their objectives. Their primary aim is for income, price stability, or capital appreciation or growth. Another distinction is by their method of sale. Load funds add a selling charge about 9% of the asset value on minimum purchase to the value before charge. Others are known as no load funds, make no such charge. So the managements are content with the usual investment counsel fees for handling the capital. Since they cannot pay salesman's commission, the size of no load funds tend to be on low side. The buying and selling prices of the closed end funds are not fixed by the companies but fluctuate in the open market as the ordinary corporate stock. So most of the companies operate under special provisions of the income tax law, designed to relieve the shareholders from double taxation on their earnings. In effect, the funds must pay out virtually all their ordinary income, dividends, interest received, less expenses. In addition, they can pay out their realized gains, dividends, which are treated by shareholders as if they were his own security profits. There is another option which we omit or avoid. Nearly all the funds have but one class of security outstanding. A capitalization into a preferred issue which will receive all the ordinary income, capital issue or stock which will receive all the profits on security sales. They are called dual purpose funds. So many of the companies that state their primary aim is for capital gains concentrate on the purchase of the so-called growth stocks, and they often have the word growth in their name. Some specialize in a designated area such as chemicals, aviation, overseas investment. This is usually indicated in their titles. The investor who wants to make an intelligent commitment in fund shares has thus a large and somewhat bewildering variety of choices before him, not too different from those offered in direct investment. Here we will see, is there any way by which the investor can assure himself of a better than average results by choosing the right funds? how can he avoid choosing funds that will give him worse than average results? Can he make intelligent choice between different types of funds? Balanced versus all stock, open end versus closed end, load versus no load. So before trying to answer these questions, one should understand something about the performance of the fund industry as a whole. Has it done a good job for the shareholders? In most general way, how have fund investors fared as against those who made their investments directly? We are quite certain that funds in the aggregate have served a useful purpose. They have promoted good habits of savings and investment. They have protected countless individuals against costly mistakes in the stock market. They have brought their participants' income and profits commensurate with the overall returns from stock. On a comparative basis, we would hazard and guess that the average individual who put his money exclusively in investment fund shares in the past 10 years or 30 years have a better average person who made his common stock purchase directly. Last point is that it is true, even though the actual performance of the fund seemed to have been no better than that of a common stock as a whole, even though the cost of investing in mutual fund may have been greater than that of the direct purchases, the real choice of actual average individual has not been between constructing and acquiring a well-balanced common stock portfolio or doing the same thing a bit more expensively by buying into the fund. So more likely his choice has been between succumbing to the wills of the doorbell ringing mutual fund salesman on the one hand against succumbing to the even willer and much more dangerous peddlers of second and third rate new offerings. We cannot help thinking too that average individual who opens brokerage account with the idea of making conservative common stock investment is likely to find himself beset to untoward influences in the direction of speculation and speculative losses. So these temptations should be much less for the mutual fund buyer. Thank you.